Hello. All right, everybody. All right. Settle down now. Settle down. Shut the fuck up. Well, actually, hello, ladies and gentlemen, all ghosts and ghouls. I'm Ghostie, and welcome to the Game Awards, or my Game Awards, at least. My votes, my thoughts, and any opinions I want to say or share revolving around the Game Awards, and maybe some bonus stuff towards the end, considering if it wasn't the Game Awards, it would be just straight nonsense. But alas, that's for later. So we'll have to wait for that. For now, feel free to share your own votes and your thoughts on the nominees themselves or the Game Awards itself. Whatever pleases you, whatever you want to share, feel free to. And we'll get into mine, because I know you're all jumping out of your seat like a little kid, foaming from the mouth to see it. So we're about to get into that, but before I do, subscribe, please and thank you. Really, so just do it, subscribe. And let's get into it. Without further ado, sending it over to you, Paul. Paul is not real, and I'm schizophrenic. This is still Ghostie, but we can now get into the voting. Starting off with the biggest and best one, Game of the Year. What is the best of the best? There were a lot of great games this year, and a lot of these noteworthy titles are up as nominees, but I truly think it does come down to only two games, and you all probably know what that is already. And if you don't, it's between God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring. Both of these are masterpieces at their crafts, and are both phenomenal games, in and out. Both of these studios have a lot of experience under the belt when it comes to doing what they do in these games, so it really is head-to-head. It really is based on preference and what you enjoy more, and what you think deserves the title. I recently finished God of War Ragnarok, so I could be a little biased by recency, but the game is a phenomenal sequel. It does everything right, from combat to the visuals, to the sound design, to of course the plot and all of the lore in the 9 realms and the world of the game. Elden Ring also does the same thing though, bringing a fresh take on pretty much everything that From Software has done before, and combining it all into this one game that's pretty much a perfect game, as well as it being a standalone game and having the lore and world in this one game itself. Whereas God of War Ragnarok is a sequel, and it's pretty much a continuation of the last game. So to really get the feeling of the story and the feel of the game, you kind of do have to understand that, as well as all the other games in the past, but mostly the 2018 game, where I think Elden Ring individually is better received as a game itself, a standalone game, rather than Ragnarok, where it is a sequel game. But don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it being a sequel game. I have no issues or problems with games being sequels. I just think for the title and award of Game of the Year, I think a standalone individual game in itself is more worthy and deserving of that title. And I can really go on and on about this, but I'm trying to make sure I don't spend too much time on it. But the game that I think is more worthy of getting this award and more deserving of it is Elden Ring. But my personal vote went to God of War Ragnarok. Not only do I think it's a phenomenal game and I had a hell of a time having the experience and having the chance to play it, but I will say, which could be a big factor of my voting choice, I apologize for what I'm about to say, but I never played Elden Ring. Yeah, it is a big shock, but that could be why my vote goes towards God of War. But again, I think it's an amazing game, and that's my stance on it. I do think Elden Ring deserves it, but my vote is going for God of War. So that's that, and we can move on to the next one, which does hold a lot of the same games as the previous one, and it is Best Game Direction. And as you can see, there are some great big titles, just like the previous one, some of the same games actually, and they're all big players. They're big stars in the industry, and they all do something special. But the sad thing is, for most of these games, is that they have courage. They have the heart, and they have balls to drop as the same year as the two game that it's down to again, which is, to no surprise, Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. But this one's pretty easy for me, as I'm choosing God of War. The storyline and plot of the whole game, and the lore and all, just makes it and puts it over the edge for me. So, it goes to Ragnarok. Now that I'm realizing it, this entire video might just be a love letter to God of War Ragnarok, because the next one is Best Narrative, which is an easy Ragnarok for me. So, there you go. Or maybe I was wrong, because the next one is Best Art Direction. And as much as I could vote for God of War Ragnarok, which I think is absolutely beautiful, but it does the same thing in Elden Ring, same with Horizon Forbidden West, and I really do like the style of Stray, but I think this one does go to Scorn. The art style of that game out of these choices is the most unique, I think, and it does its own thing where the entire environment is pretty much alive, with a dark and gruesome take on everything pretty much, and I'm a big fan of how it looks and feels. So, it goes to Scorn. And now, with the next one, it goes to Best Score and Music, which, if it wasn't obvious, is definitely without a doubt God of War Ragnarok. The score and music and just pretty much the sound overall of this entire game is immensely phenomenal, and it is easy choice for me. And now staying in the sound department, we have Best Audio Design, which, again, like I mentioned, goes to God of War Ragnarok. I think Elden Ring would be pretty good, maybe even Horizon Forbidden West, if God of War wasn't so goddamn good. I think it's truly one of the best sound designs in any game that I've ever played, and it is just fantastic. As for the other choices, I really can't think of anything or remember anything memorable in COD, and maybe a little bit of Vroom Vroom, or maybe your blinkers in Gran Turismo. And now going from sound to speech, we have Best for Performance, which I think, again, is fairly obvious. It is between one of the stars in God of War, which is between Christopher Judge and Sonny Soljic. It's good to see Sonny there, but I think I have to give it to Christopher Judge. He is Kratos, and he is the God of War. Just look at him. And now the next one is Games for Impact. And I won't lie, I have never seen or played any of these games. I haven't even heard of any of these games until now, and now here I am voting. And I will say, when it comes to the voting, it's quite difficult considering I've never played or heard of any of these games until now. It's like going into a test without studying or doing it for the first time and having no clue on how to put on a condom. But in this case, I'm not messing up with my rubber, and I'm playing smarter, not harder. So I did a little research here and there, and my result is voting for Endling Extinction is Forever. Not only am I just a fan of the art style of this game, but you as the protagonist are a mother fox watching over your baby cubs in a world that's pretty much been destroyed. It highlights how shitty the world really is, and with that, it's a survival game, which is also pretty neat. So there goes my vote for that one. But now moving on past all that, we have Best Ongoing Game. As you can see on screen, all of these games are noteworthy, and all of these are big titles. Big games that have been around for quite some time now, and they all deserve this award, I won't lie. Like it or not, I'm giving credit where it's due, and that is going to land on one of the Battle Royales. So it's between Apex Legends and Fortnite. I don't have as much experience with the other games on the list as I do with these two, so that's really why it comes down to these. And I will say, these two games have been neck and neck for quite some time now, and they just keep adding continuous updates and continuous content to the games, both of them respectively. I think my vote will land on Fortnite though for this one, because if you see my channel, then you know I prefer that over Apex, or simply just because in Apex I have no clue what I'm doing compared to Fortnite. And I will say, they've had numerous updates and numerous content changes and whatnot, and they don't stop it ever. But I will say, the collab skins and collaborations that they do really pushes it over the edge for me, and that's pretty much why. And now moving on from that, we have Best Indie Game, which can go to any of these games that you could see, but my vote really comes down to these two, but it then eventually lands on Stray. Apologies to any of the cat fanatics, furries, and middle-aged women that I upset with this, but trust me, I have been trying to vote for Stray, but there was always a game that I preferred more, so that's that. But this one goes to Stray. And now the next one is for Best Mobile Game. And as you can see, they're all big titles, pretty much the Hollywood stars of the App Store. And I say this because I see these games everywhere. Everywhere I look. I'm not sure about you, but I definitely do. But I will say, and before I say this is not an ad. I'm not sponsored. I don't even think I'm big enough to be sponsored if I wanted to. But I will say the Game Awards has taken a massive L for not including this game simply because of the memes alone. I know I've seen them, you've probably all seen them, and they're everywhere, more than any of these games are. Only the memes, not the game itself, but the memes. But my vote is going to Diablo Immortal. But now, back on track to voting, we have Best Community Support. And oh boy, where do I start? It seems as if these same games are in the same category every single year, so in the end, it doesn't really matter what I vote. And I'll see you all next year in the same category with the same games voting for the same thing, probably. This one's more on the fence of what I'm voting for, but like previously, I might just go with Fortnite again. I definitely could give it to Final Fantasy, or Apex, or maybe even No Man's Sky as well. That kind of does deserve it. But like I said, my experience holds up, and that's why my vote is going to Fort. Then the next one is Innovation in Accessibility, and I'll make this one short and simple. It goes to God of War Ragnarok. If you know, then you know. If you don't understand, then you don't. That's pretty much all I have to say. But of course, I do have stuff to say for more topics as we move on to the next category, which is Best VR/AR. And I think we all see that one choice that comes up above all the rest. There's no debating it. There's no going against it. You might hate it, honestly, because I could see why. But it goes to Among Us. It goes to And the next voting category is Best Action Game. And of course we have some big titles here, and the vote can honestly slide itself into any of these games. But ultimately my vote is going to land on Sifu. I think it has a special and unique way of how it does things in the game, and for action game, the whole premise is kicking the ever-living shit out of people. So I think it's pretty deserving. Now the next category is Best Action/Adventure Game, and there's only one here that I'm going to choose, and you probably all know it already. It's deserving, and it's worthy of this title, and it goes to God of War Ragnarok, to no surprise. And then the next category is Best Role-Playing, and as you can see we have multiple nominees as usual, but for this one, there's only one true game that deserves it, and I think is going to win, which is also where my vote is going to be going. It's kind of sad for the rest of these games, thinking that they had a chance at this, especially going against this one game, and if you have any of these games besides the winner, I honestly think you should just uninstall the game now, and be prepared. Because the rest of these games fall to their knees at the sight of this game. They shit their entire diaper filling up the entire storage unit in whatever you play on. So you're going to need some room. And the thing that they all fear, the game that is going to win, and my vote is going towards, is of course Elden Ring. But now moving on from what was the mass genocide of the role-playing games, we move on into the best fighting category. Which could go to any of them. Well actually no, it can't. It can only go to these two, which is Multiverses and Sifu. And I could give it to Sifu because the same reason of why I voted before, but that's only if Multiverses wasn't included. I absolutely love what they did with Multiverses. The combination of characters and worlds that are in this game are really great, and they excel in that, with all the different collaborations and all, and it's a shame that this game isn't as popular as it once was. I always thought the game had a lot of potential, and it still does if they do a little reworking here and there, but my vote is going to Multiverses. And now the next category is the exact opposite of my channel, and it is Best Family. Aww. Yeah. Can I get can I get a... Yeah. How sweet. Best Family. We have a lot of good games here. A lot of fun games, honestly. And I am honestly biased towards Mario Rabbids. Because not only does Mario do good on my channel, and I feel like I'm obligated to choose that, but the Rabbids, the Raving Rabbids, were my shit back in the day. I haven't covered that or said anything about that whatsoever before, but now I am, and it was. But I haven't played, and I would have to give credit where it's due, once again. So I'm swerving a little bit and giving you all a little plot twist. The vote is going towards LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. But thankfully we haven't left that game behind, because the next one is Best Sim/Strategy Game. And now I can actually give it to Mario plus Rabbids. Hell yeah. But now getting into the next category, or literally racing into the next one, we have Best Sports/Racing. And if you've seen what I play in my channel, you know that I don't dive into this genre, this side of gaming at all. Not even a bit. Maybe I will sometime, just to mess around a little bit. But for now, as of right now, I have not. So my vote is pretty much useless here. I may definitely be wrong in what I'm about to say, but I do say it a lot, and I'm going to repeat myself here. I think sports games are the same games every year. But again, I could definitely be wrong, and I could just be saying that because I don't play the game myself or see it myself, so I start repeating myself like a broken record. And I'm going to do the same thing and say that I'm pretty much at a loss. I don't know what to vote for, to be honest, and I could vote for any of the game here, or just do it randomly. But I do want to point out that Oli World, however you pronounce that, the art style reminds me of Steven Universe, Adventure Time, and Scribblenauts all combined. It has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm voting for, but it's here, so I wanted to point it out because that's what it reminded me of. But my vote is going to go towards Gran Turismo, either because I'm a very young prepubescent boy in my race car bed waiting for Santa to come overnight, or because I dissed it earlier and wanted to give it some appreciation. No one will ever know. But now for a category that we all should know, the next one is Best Multiplayer Game. There's obviously a lot of big titles here, and a lot of them excel in multiplayer, real thoroughly, and I enjoy them all real thoroughly. But I think only one game out of this bunch shines more than the rest for me, in my eyes at least, and of course that is Overwatch 2. If you know me, or see my content, then you know this was coming. And now the next category we'll be going over is... Content Creator of the Year. And I won't lie, I don't watch any of the nominees, so I'm taking the chance to remind you all to subscribe. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't a mid-video plug. But now coming back from the advertising of my own channel, we have Best Debut Indie. Or Best Indie Debut? I don't know. Regardless, we have to vote. And I think off the bat we could tell that there's some that we could vote for, and others that we can't. like Tunic, that keeps popping up. I've never heard or seen it, ever. But I think the vote is going to land on Stray. It does a lot, and it still holds up for what it is. A game about a cat. And now for a more difficult one, as you can see, we have Best Adaptation. We have a lot of good series, and a lot of good movies. Well, maybe not that one, but for the most part, we have a lot of good adaptations. Not only do they all do their job as an interesting, enjoyable, fun project, but they also all give justice to the source material. And trust me, I won't lie to you all. I won't sit up here at my edited podium and lie. I'm going to say I'm biased towards the Cuphead show. I really like what they did with the show, and I absolutely adore the games. Well, plural if you count the DLC as a whole different thing. But I think the hard hitters, the ones that are really head-to-head, are Arcane and Cyberpunk Edgerunners. It just really depends on me, on which side I'm standing on. And I do think these are more deserving. And I think I'm honestly going to side with Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I just think that the way the studio handled the game and how it absolutely trashed itself on release into the brilliant show that it turned out to be is pretty impressive. So that's where my vote is going. And as the voting continues, so does my patience. Because the next one is Most Anticipated Game, which can honestly go to any of these games. They all have high potential, some more than others, but that's besides the case. This could be said for any category, but this one mostly. I think it really depends on preference and what the player enjoys, but they all have high potential, they all have high expectations because of the players. And again, it could go to anyone, but I want to say, before I do vote, is that it is a sin that they do not have Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man 2. That would have got my vote without hesitation, and I think it would have won, to be honest. But it's not here. But in all of these worlds, in all of these universes, between these games, I am most excited to dive into the Wizarding world. So that's where my vote is going to be going, to Hogwarts Legacy. Now for the next category, I don't have much experience in it, because, here, let me say this. Personally, in my eyes, I see myself more of a chill kind of guy. I sit back, I play games for fun, pretty much, and to make videos about them. I'm just laid back. I go to bed at maybe around 3 a.m., 3:01 a.m. if I'm feeling a little frisky. Wake up at about 2 p.m. I know it's shitty, but it is what it is. Maybe crack open a cold one here and there. Let the ceiling fan spin, hit my balls a little bit. The usual. So I'm not a very competitive person unless it's me playing a game myself. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not a big person when it comes to the competitive scene. Like the players, the tournaments, and all of that. I don't really have an experience in it. I don't look at it, or am I involved in it whatsoever. So I'm not going to go over that stuff, but I will go over the last one when it comes to the actual games themselves. And this is the final one for the normal Game Awards. Best Esports Game. And they're all massive titles when it comes to the competitive scene and esports themselves. And I don't have much experience in any of these games really. A lot of them are on PC, and that's pretty much why. But like I just mentioned, I'm not big on this kind of stuff, and I have little experience with these games. So my vote is going to be going towards the one that I think is more worthy of it, and is more deserving of getting the award. You know, rather than my own personal preference and likability of the games. And I think it's going to be going towards League of Legends. They still release stuff, just like a few categories ago, we went over Arcane, and it just seems that they keep the world of League alive, and they keep it refreshing. They keep it pushing, as well as all the stuff that I see about the esports category and about the competitive scene. I see it pretty much everywhere. So that's where my vote is going here. And with that, that is all the awards for you now. So, back to the host, which is still just me, the same person. But, alright, how are we liking the awards? Alright, how are we liking the voting and all the nominees and participants? Alright, pipe down. Thank you. But now we have come to the conclusion of the awards. Well, the normal ones, that is. I said earlier there would be a bonus, and that's what it is. Awards and nominees that I think should have been included that are not, because if it was, it would be complete nonsense. So, we move on to my own version, the Grave Awards. And we're back. I'm Ghostie, and enough of that shitty green screen, please. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Grave Awards. I thought it would be cool to have a different setting for the stuff that's related to my kind of channel aesthetic kind of thing. You know what I'm trying to do, whatever. Well, anyways, welcome to the Grave Awards, the continuation of the Game Awards by me, myself, and I, Ghostie only, subscribe. And it'll be taking place with things that I think should have been included, or just random things that I want to include in my own kind of award ceremony. The way this is going to work is that I'm going to bring up a category, and I will say what I think would win if it was a real award or a real category. And if you want to participate in this as well, you can also vote down in the comments below if you think of any game that fits the category that you think deserves to win, or if you're biased, because that's fine too. I've been biased the entire video. So, how are we feeling? How are we feeling? No applause? Alright. Move on to the next one. Back to you, Paul. I still have no clue who Paul is, but let's get on with it. Starting off with the biggest and best award in the Game Awards, one that I think is very fitting. A game that has risen above the ashes of its own death and has been resurrected. Let's call this one the Unburied Award. This can go to any game that had a definite death and had its nail in the coffin as well, but somehow, some way it returned and came back to life and came back to the highest parts of the chart of popularity. So now that you know the topic and category, you can all think of a game that fell down to the deep depths and somehow made its way back up. But for me, personally, I think this would go to Fall Guys. I'm not completely sure what it did to cause it to come back, but it definitely had one. And bonus points for all the amazing collaborations that they've done as of recent. The next category is one that I'm not actually voting for myself, but I will put for if anyone that for some godforsaken reason watches this far into the video, you can vote for it yourself, or just think of one. This goes to Dead Game. Of course, it has to be in 2022, and it has to be the best dead game of all of them. A lot of games has died this year, and it's our job to think of the best one out of all the ones that are now buried. And now for my own very next category, we have Best Outage, or Best Leak. A lot of games have leaks, some games are leaks themselves, and there are a lot of them. Of all the ones to come up in this year that I can think of though, some notable ones, Multiverses had a lot of leaks that I even covered on TikTok. There's a lot of leaks on Fortnite all year round, every year, so that could win every year if I wanted to. But one that I'm voting for, and one that I think is the true winner, is of course GTA 6. It is indeed a game that's not even out yet, but when this leaked, it was massive. It was a massive, tremendous leak that leaked pretty much everything about the game. I even made a video about this earlier in the year, and no matter what, I think this does deserve this one for this category. As for the next category, I think this one should actually just normally be in the Game Awards, but it goes to Best DLC, which have come a long way in the whole year, for all games really. A lot of games have been getting DLC, good and bad. But I'm not here to have my gums flapping over all the DLCs, I want to know what the very best is. If you have an opinion on one, feel free to share, because this can go to really any game. We've had DLCs for Outer Worlds, Gotham Knights, even recently, Elden Ring, and my vote, which is going towards this game, which I absolutely adore, Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, which also, yes, stands for DLC. So it's pretty fitting that it's getting this in my eyes, so there you go. I absolutely love it, and that will never ever change. As for the next category, I could see why it's not in the Game Awards, but I myself need to take it into consideration considering how much I love it, which is Best Customization. This really can go to any game, from skins or pure customization, or maybe just gear you get along the way, but I have one very specific vote for this that I had in mind since I made the concept of this award, and it is for WWE 2K22. God damn, the customization in this is immensely great, and there's so much of it, and you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you please in this game, and it deserves it. Now I have two categories left, and I will make them short and simple because the games that I'm voting for towards these are games that we're familiar with because they've already appeared in the video. But the first one is Best Quote. This can go to a lot of different games or a lot of different characters, but I, for one, you can all think of what you want and what that would be for you, but for me, it's an easy win for God of War Ragnarok, or specifically Kratos, because in the game he says, "Death can have me when it earns me," which is probably the most badass line I've ever heard in my life. And now getting into the final award and the final part of this video, we're going over likely the most important one out of the entire bunch that I've gone over. It is taken with much love and much care, and a lot of thought was put into this. And it is the baddest bitches. Oh, I apologize, this is a formal ceremony. Finest ladies, or the most gentlemen of gentlemen, when it comes to the guys in whatever game you're thinking of. I honestly think this goes to Overwatch 2, just because I'm biased and if you've played the game, if you've seen any of the characters, then you would understand. But that's where my vote is going for this one, and that's all. Feel free to let me know yours. And with that, that is the last award, for the Grave Awards and the Game Awards both. So all that's left to do is to end this video and end it here. So I want to applaud you all myself for watching this video, especially if you've gotten this far into it. I appreciate any and all support, and thank you all for joining me on the Game Awards or Grave Awards, whatever you prefer. But it looks like that I have to go now. I have to return some videotapes, but I do hope to see you sometime again. So join back next time, subscribe, and again, thank you. This has been Ghostie, and goodbye.